And we're live. So this is the AI discussion of the week.
Yep.
What is the news that's happening? I see a lot about deep research. That's the big topic, probably.
What do you think about deep research? I've been using it. It's been great.
Using it on which platform?
So I've used deep search on Grok 3. And then so basically like the way that my AI workflow works is for stuff that's less sensitive, I'll use a publicly hosted AI platform, whether it's, Claude 3.7 or now Grok. And then when I need to do something sensitive, then I use DeepSeek R1 run on a local machine.
Okay. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they all have very different deep researches. Perplexity released there's a lot of drama because first, Google invented the deep research product, but didn't
Okay.
trademark it.
Okay.
So then everyone else copied it and made a deep research product. In particular, DeepSeek launched, and then OpenAI, Sam Altman decided to name a new product they released called Deep Research, possibly to confuse the deep part of it with DeepSeek. But you have to pay $200 a month for that. So they wanted people to pay $200 a month for that. And then Perplexity released a deep research type of product for free. And that took a lot of the wind out of the OpenAI sails. So
People don't like evil, so they maybe shouldn't have tried to be so evil.
Yeah. But that caused Sam to just release a day ago the deep research product for free.
Wow.
Or at
So
least,
from
at least for
$200
plus users, at least. Yeah.
from $200 to $0 in a month is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's been a very busy month. It's been a very busy month.
So how do you feel about using these things? I know we've talked about writing code. Like I'll give you an example. I had to write a
I haven't
custom.
tried deep research. Are you talking about just the new code from Sonnet or deep research?
Yeah, both of these things. So like,
Well, deep research I
when I
haven't
was gonna,
tried much. Ben Evans has a good analysis. Like I tried one thing with deep research to research, I think something about myself, and it was just very, 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 very wrong. I just did it completely. I used Perplexity, and it just made up things that were not true. And
so
everyone who uses it finds it to be the case.
I use deep research on Grok for myself,
For Grok.
or deep search, sorry, and it did a great job talking
It was.
about.
I think I saw that. It was very complimentary to you, but was everything true?
Yeah, there was nothing that it made up.
Okay, good. I'll try Grok then. Maybe it's better.
Yeah, I don't know, and I've used it a couple times to do some analysis in our work, and it was a great starting place.
I had an interview being done with me over email, and the questions were kind of vague and all over the place, and I had already discussed them in a lot of places online. I've done a lot of these podcasts and live streams, so I asked Perplexity to do research and summarize all these YouTube videos and everything, and then write the answers to them.
Yeah.
Seems pretty straightforward, right? You could almost transcribe. It completely made up a lot of things, even though all this information is very public and clearly linked to me. But I could see how it just took random words from different documents that may have mentioned my name and then mixed them all together.
Yeah.
Saying I raised money from places I didn't raise from, and things like that.
I didn't find Perplexity. I haven't found Perplexity to be a great tool personally. I used it initially, and then my biggest problem with these things is when they get the facts wrong.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I only used Perplexity because I only signed up to try the deep research because it was free, and I wanted to try it. Now everyone else has it, so I don't need to. I mean, everything changed in just a few days, so I can use it now. I try it with Grok then, see if they can do better.
I've been very happy with Grok.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Yeah, so
like I just used while we've been talking, Grok is analyzing some legal forms for me and just pulling out some areas of interest that I should take a look at, and I'm finding it useful.
Nice. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff we can talk about. There's Grok 3 is released and improving, and they've had a good pace. Also, Claude Sonnet just was released and
Yeah.
potentially is the best coding. Everyone says it's the best coding one.
Yeah. I'd love to understand what your perspective. So we talked offline about coding. I had to write a query parser for JSON, and it seemed fine. Like it works great, spits out the right Python, it's all formatted, runs. So I'm pretty happy with my ability to create like small, pipeable tools. Um,
Yeah, I
with
mean,
the
a query parser in JSON, I mean, query parsing JSON is a solved problem, right? There's already tons of libraries. You can just find
I understand,
however.
but that to me is sort of the like when you think about like value to an enterprise, it's doing that kind of work. It's not
Yeah,
creating some frontier software application. Like, like
yeah,
it's basically like here's 57 data sets in a bunch of different formats. Let's regularize, dedupe the data, and then put them all into the same place and then run very basic data analytics against them for insight extraction. And there you go. Like that's it. Like it's not, there isn't, I wouldn't say it's super complicated, any of this stuff.
yeah. I'm saying that specifically JSON parse is a solved problem. You don't have to change anything to make that work. What is surprising is that AI can also glue together pieces and connect it to other parts, which is a lot of work. It can be a ton of work, and it can do some of that pretty well.
Yeah, I actually also built so I did two things. One was a technical architecture document for basically an API gateway where we're plugging in all these different data sources. And I found that the AI making the technical architecture document and then helping me write that glue code, like you were just saying, to
Mm-hmm.
connect everything together to be very low lift. And that would have taken me a really long time before because you have to go and read the way that you access every single one of the APIs.
Mm-hmm.
And and then there's other things like, okay, every time that a function gets called, like produce a log line, right, for tracing or something like that, and just
Yeah.
having it go through and then write all that stuff in and then just go yes, 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 yes,
So
yes.
tedious. Even if it's easy for you, it's still tedious and creates RSI. Just like copy paste, copy paste, copy paste.
Exactly, right. And you don't and anyway, so I felt a lot like you know how like in full self-driving that it doesn't really work and you still have to sit on it, but if you're going to go on a 3-hour drive from like New York City to the Hamptons or the Bay Area to Tahoe, you're less tired when you get there.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's kind of how I feel about this.
Are you
uh
vibe coding?
Yo, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take a class. So I want to create a personal Asana clone and then connect it to um like Twilio or whatever, so
Yeah.
that I can just send a text message to myself and have it add tasks or ask it like what tasks should I focus on today via text.
Okay.
Um, and
Nice.
just throw it into like a REPL, and replet and just have it just exist there. That's sort of my next vibe coding project. And then, it'd be cool to create a bunch of these vibe coding things and string them together. Like the thing that I remember when we graduated college, we had a friend who made a calendaring app, and there's sort of like a meme in Silicon Valley, which is like, don't do messaging, don't do calendaring, and don't do contacts because
Oh yeah.
there's such a shit show.
Yeah.
But I finally feel like the AI can get me to a place where I can have my own, Airtable CRM connected to my task manager, connected to my calendaring app, so that I
Mhm.
can say things like, oh, let's put Joe on a 90-day touch point for my CRM, and then I'm thinking like maybe I can add like an email thing so it automatically sent or to email text phone. So it'll like automatically text you and say like, hey, how's it going? We should grab lunch or whatever, and just make that automated. And to date, that hasn't really been a product that I've been able to buy. And I think
Yeah.
it's because everyone's specific use of all those tools is so varied that it's impossible to, and then it's really, really inexpensive to buy all those tools individually, so that customer acquisition is sort of exceeds the value of the LTV for somebody in such a program. But now that
Exactly. You're in, but the thing is, you're in a Goldilocks zone at the moment. The reason you can't buy that tool is it does exist. It exists for very wealthy people who can pay a lot of money for that kind of thing.
yeah,
Because if it were cheap and available to everyone, then everyone would get these constant spam and emails and text about that kind of stuff, and everything would be more illegitimate and all that stuff. You're able to build it now for cheap and use it. But again, if you're in this Goldilocks zone where you're one of the few people with agency enough to start building that and own it, but if everyone starts realizing that they can't afford this, but they can build it on their own with AI, if everyone realizes they can build it, then there's going to be a mass amount of spam and text and emails and all this stuff, and then it's gonna, I don't know, some things we're gonna stop responding to each other. I don't know.
no. What's going to happen is you're going to just create AI summaries of
Mhm,
all of your, so like how Superhuman
mhm.
analyzes your email inbox. You're going to have the same thing for your text messages.
Do you use
So
Superhuman?
no,
Okay.
I don't like the idea of somebody else organizing my email.
Yeah, it doesn't
But
organize your email. I've had Superhuman for years. I don't know what you mean. Although I turned off the AI features. Don't want it reading my emails.
yeah, well, anyway, so I get so many emails now that I actually am pretty overwhelmed. I like the way that Gmail bins them.
Oh,
Um, but
so you do like AI organizing your emails?
well, it's not an AI, it's just basically, I mean, it kind of
Gmail's
is. I guess it's a
AI.
machine learning system. What was
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Machine learning's AI.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
I just mean
it
like
has it.
I don't feel like it's summarizing my emails yet, but I do think there'll come a point where I'll have a like daemon sitting on all of my input channels from a
Yeah.
communication standpoint, and it will run some very basic rules like don't allow calls to come in outside of, between 10 and 6 a.m., that kind of thing. It's not, we're not there yet. And I think part of the
Yeah, my
problem
phone
is,
already has that. My phone has a do not disturb with hours.
I know, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to set up and use. Like it's not a good user experience. Like
I
Apple
don't
did
think
not do a
so.
good job for me.
No, I think everyone has it. Everyone has it enabled and it works. It's fine.
I don't think it works very well, actually,
Okay.
because there's a bunch of reasons why I might want to get a call between 10 and 6. And like I said, it's just too black and white. So I think it's pretty
That's
close to
true.
being there. But so for example, let's say somebody's calling me at 10:05 and it's my dad and he's not usually on that list for me.
Mhm.
And the system can be like, why do you want to disturb Michael? And he's like, I got in a car crash.
You
Right?
wanted to talk. You wanted to talk back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's an
I want
interesting idea.
I want it to have some intelligence, and then it will make a decision about whether that rises to my level of importance and urgency.
Yeah. So
Um,
you would I mean, very wealthy people have a full time or four full time assistants doing that for them and
yes, that's what I
create.
mean. You go from like you have to run everything yourself to having assistants. So like it's kind of interesting when you cross that chasm with an assistant, how much productivity you unlock.
Yeah, creativity as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because you're
you
not dealing with all of the sort of minutiae, the Lilliputian strings that tie you to the ground. Like every time I set up a new, LLC, there's all this fucking paperwork that you have to do that's a pain in the ass. So,
so much
and
of a
then
pain.
that has to be tracked and everything. So,
Yeah, it'll be nice when AI can do more of that as well. I'm surprised that LegalZoom doesn't just make that a lot easier.
I think they had a big problem with doing that. There was some kind of liability concern, or they got in trouble with the courts or something like that. That was
Yeah,
with the
you're right. There's a lot of these things where no one can really ever provide the product. No one can provide a product and sell it at a reasonable price point for the common people that does the CRM you're talking about. There's no one that can provide this legal help that is very trivial. Like maybe it won't do better than someone really cheap. Maybe they won't do it properly all the time, but a lot of humans won't either. But no one will ever provide a product that isn't 100% or nearly effective. But you would build, Michael, you could build with AI something that you're trusting enough to do some of that work and
Well,
is all.
yeah, that's what I mean with the vibe coding, right? You just do a
Yeah.
vibe coding thing and
Yeah.
you have it constantly ask you every time before the agent takes an action. So you can make a decision and
Amazing.
then you can accept your own level of risk. So a good example is asking
Yes.
Grok to analyze this legal document. it's not going to be able to determine for me, okay, this is good to go, because the insurance compliance of that would make the product in like extremely expensive. But
Exactly.
when I like unofficially accept that insurance compliance because I'm running the AI myself, then all of a sudden, because it costs nothing. It costs what, a penny to generate all that context, like
Exactly.
just whatever, those
You,
tokens.
you can you can get a middle point. You maybe not 99.9% compliant and effective, but like you would do 80% or even 90 or 95%
I kind
and
of, yeah.
pay a penalty.
The analogy for me is between supervised self-driving and full level 5, is that even as we're discussing FSD going live in Austin on June 1st or July 1st or whatever it is, they are saying that they're doing that because it's already 10 times safer than a human, and 10 times safer, according to their statistics, may still not be safe enough.
Sorry,
And
who's
so
doing
they're
that?
Tesla.
Tesla, that you have data, you think that they're gonna launch self-driving on June?
Yeah, they already said that. They already announced they're launching their self-driving in Austin with the service, the robo-taxi service.
I missed that. So they're doing robotaxi in Austin in June.
Yep, that's what they said. They said they were going to do it in Austin and California, and then a few weeks later, Elon updated it and said just Austin. So my sense is right.
California called them and said, "Fuck you, Elon." Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
probably.
But he didn't say that, right? He just didn't talk about California anymore. And I think if it works in Austin, it'll probably be 10 times safer than a human. And I'm not clear that that will be enough of a safety margin for it to actually get widespread adoption. And I
Yeah,
feel like everything, one
I
second.
worked on self-driving.
Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions about it, but
Let's
continue.
talk about that in a second. But the analogy I'm trying to draw is
Yeah,
that self-driving is going to work good enough for people, some people, they'll be able to accept the risk, right? Like if it was 3 times better than a human, most people should accept the risk in the middle of the night, like when they're drinking and driving. Okay. Like a lot of people drink a little bit of alcohol, so they're under the legal limit, but it's still kind of sketchy. And so being able to do FSD at that level, that's 3 times, 10 times better than human driving, it's a very reasonable trade-off. And so what I'm saying is there's a context in which the AI, which is already better than the human, is acceptable. And I feel like doing that for everywhere else in my life, whether it's sending an email on my behalf, doing a calendar, managing my contacts, managing my legal risk, it's like that's where we are. That's, you say it's like a Goldilocks. I feel like it's like purgatory, right? We're in this sort of purgatory. We're at, 1 9 or 2 9s of being good. When, in order to accept the legal costs, you need like 5 9s of being good. And then the problem is that by the time you get to 5 9s, the cost of doing that is so low that nobody wants to build it. And so then it just gets bundled in the foundation model or whatever, like in the operating system. So
well,
again, there's
that's one risk, but the other risk is once it's 5 9s, then someone productizes it, and then it's useless because the value of it partly is in people, only some people having it. If everybody had a way to automatically make a phone call and do a cold call, no one would pick up phones
so
anymore.
so
Even
I completely
elderly.
dis I completely disagree. Completely
Yeah.
disagree. So let me give you an example.
Mhm.
I'm building a multi-agent thing as another side project. This isn't vibe coding. And basically it's going to crawl the web for machine shops. And I'm trying to figure out how we get AI voice to call the machine shops to ask for quotes for parts. And right now, it's not possible for me to call as many machine shops as I want on
Yeah.
behalf of a customer with human beings, but with an AI, it greatly reduces it. So now you're going to say, well, the machine shop is going to get overwhelmed with B2B calls.
That's right.
And I'm saying, no, the machine
Not
shop is
not
going to,
even that. Their website is already starting to get overspammed by bots from just the Google bots. Now if a billion people are sending bot armies to their website half the time, they just won't be
I
able to afford
understand, but
serving a very web page.
it's very easy for a third party to just issue a certification that this startup is real. And so its bot can go through. Like we did this at Fastly at scale, is like not hard. to inject a centralized database in this problem. Okay, it's not like Gucci cool, decentralized, blah, blah, blah. Like we're doing cool like bot detection stuff, but it's fairly easy to solve this problem. The like another thing is I'm working with a
There
company.
is a technical solution, but you do need another layer to this. And then once you add that other layer, it's like, do you even need AI, right? Because this other layer has already created this
It's
clean data
possible. I
flow.
don't know. But what I do know is that the machine shop would love to have an AI on their side that's answering all these quote requests
Right.
and filling them out. And some of them are
But
going to be legitimate.
that's just an API.
I understand, but today that API doesn't exist and they can't build
Right.
it. And
Right. But once they make an API, then they're going to get a ton of automated requests that aren't legitimate. And
I
there's,
understand. And to fix the automated request, you can just only accept requests from verified customers. And so you can subscribe to a third-party database of verified customers. It's
right.
like,
But now you're going to this verified customers thing. Now you've already been identified as human, all this other stuff. You, again, don't need the AI to do it because
I,
you can just.
I, I understand, but that's my point is
Yeah,
that
but that's why I'm saying we're in a middle ground. We're in a Goldilocks. So we're in a Goldilocks where you can use AI, but if it actually expands, there's going to be so many billions of AI that it's going to crush itself, and the people will actually make an API, and then you won't need the AI at all.
I
That's
understand.
okay.
And
Post
like
AI. That's
it will,
post AI. That's
but
what
it
I'm
will
trying to
still,
pitch.
no,
Post AI.
people will still use an AI at that point. It will just be a lot more efficient. Everything will get super efficient.
Because the AIs will use the APIs that are being forced to be made.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will still talk to like some her style AI that
When you're
helps me.
vibe coding, are you doing voice? Or are you
I
typing?
am not doing vibe coding with voice yet because I
Why
want to
not?
get there though. I want to
I
get there. I
haven't,
just want to.
done it. I haven't done it actually. I've done a little vibe data science, but not with voice. I hear it's amazing. Some smart
The
people are.
Grok voice is really good.
Somebody
I'm
made like a 3D MMORPG airplane simulation that people use through their web browser with WebSockets, and like it's
yeah.
working. It's like 40 people simultaneously. Like it's like pretty
Yeah. I
amazing.
mean,
I mean,
it's
it's like my
basically
dream that I wanted to make when I was a kid. Like
yeah.
super
It's
fun.
like remember went to the arcade and there was like the 2D, 3D like wireframe tank game.
Hmm.
It was like right when we were just like maybe 5 to 7 years old, like not
Yeah.
quite VR, but like that, in the 90s, mid 90s, there was
Yeah.
that game. You could build that game right now in like 10 seconds vibe coding. I saw somebody made it something similar to that.
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of the examples people give of like, oh, the AI did this, the AI did that, are like already a project that exists on GitHub, right? So all it did was plagiarize that
Again,
project.
I don't
Like,
really
oh,
care
like I'm a
because
snake game. Like, there's already a snake game.
I understand, but the AI is helping to solve distribution, right? So
Because everyone wants to do something with AI.
no, the distribution problem is the code exists somewhere, but it's hard to find it because of Google's business model,
Yes, agreed.
right?
Google
And so
sucks.
and
Yeah, it
right, and
sucks.
so you're just like
I know.
basically like, and in so many ways,
Google's
this is
just like,
this.
you must look at 10 links and they all have Google ads on them and they don't
Yeah,
solve your problem. You have to scroll like pages to find it. It's
correct. And it's like it's just enough friction that it sucks. Whereas then you're like, then it searches for you, it finds the thing that's already open source, it builds kind of a slightly different, shittier version, and then it
I'm
works.
not even sure if it's enough friction. Like I don't find it my solution answer. Like at this point, for whatever reason, I can't. Often I don't find that Google has the answer.
I totally agree, and
Yeah.
that's a separate sort of conversation about how search has devolved since 2007. Um, but anyway, like I don't know. So sorry. The point that I was trying to make is your comment about like this already exists as a GitHub repo. You could say the same thing about every idea that humans have about reality,
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of
right?
what we do in life is just repeating. That's my point about
Like
why
I went through this
I
whole
work.
thing where I thought I was a genius or really smart because I thought of something, and then I read there was like some 17th century Italian philosopher who said every like literally whatever I said, and then went and did 50 more years of
Yeah.
development on the ideas. And so I just felt like a total nincompoop.
Yeah, exactly. Our ideas, but and also our lived experience are all repeated. Like our fight, every fight we've ever
Yeah.
had, spouse.
Yeah,
Other people have had
exactly.
exactly that
And
experience at exactly the age of the children at the same.
I follow these Instagram accounts and I have to start unfollowing people because their lives start looking the same as everybody else's life. And I'm like, this is boring, like, so I
I think
think that people have uploaded enough of their lives that your point is well taken, that like no matter what stage of life or problem that you're going through, it's like already mapped, and all the possible paths from that are already mapped and everything.
that's why I think one of our first calls that we made without when it wasn't recorded, I said that maybe the population is going to shrink from 8 billion to under a million people because a lot of our lives are just kind of repeat. Why would we need to repeat the same experience over and over again when AI can do the work part and the
Well,
few
so there
people who are
is
left can actually innovate and live an new kind of lived experience.
only if the measure is innovation, but I'll explain that my life with my wife and our 4 kids is pretty good.
Yeah, it's good,
And
but
so
it's
and so I
uh,
would I would I would advise my children to each have 4 kids based on the experience that I've had.
yeah.
And there's no way that today that I can foresee that AI would or any technology would like, because all the technology is doing right now is reducing my cost for everything. And so the experience of my daughter just broke into the room and did like that thing where she hid in the corner and then my wife just came in, that was really cute. And there's no, like, AI is not gonna,
I could hear that.
technology is not gonna remove that. And so, like, is there enough utility in
Yeah,
that
but Michael, I
memory?
could hear that, and that's happened to me, and I was like, oh, this has already happened to me.
I understand it's boring to you, but it's like the first time that you do something is really exciting. And I think
Yes,
that there's
exactly.
that
Yeah.
the per that there's a difference between social utility and personal utility.
The thing is, if yeah, yeah, we can have that experience. But I mean, then one thing you could do is just not research any science or anything and just innovate on your own. And every innovation is new to you, and you experience the
Yes.
of experiencing everything, and you can like live the simulation, and then you can
Yes.
live. Maybe you can just repeat that lived experience of living a life over and over again. And then maybe that's what life is. We're just living each other's lives to billions of people over
Right.
time.
Well, or you could
But
say, or I mean, that's kind of how I already feel.
oneness, consciousness. Yeah, that's
That's sort of how I already feel, is that all my life experiences have already happened, and so in the sort of the post 1858 existential nihilism that the elite have is basically like, what's the point of all this? Because it's just a repeating pattern. Whether you want to call it the fourth turning or the fact that the Chinese calendar repeats every 60 years or whatever. Obviously, everything that's happening has happened before and will happen again. And so the question is like, why are we individually here? And and sort of like, as I've striven in the world, I have like an answer for myself
but in
to that
particular, though,
question.
I want to say not everything is repeated.
Well,
PhDs
it
by
it goes like this, right?
PhDs by definition are making a new innovation that's never happened before, and it's a small innovation, but they do find something that is unique and new, and that's what they get a PhD in. Artists as well, like fine artists, not craftsmen, not like small art, but like someone who's actually innovating at the edge of anything that's been innovated. They also create something new that's never been done before, and we are all just kind of supporting those people who are pushing the edge of it.
Right. Well,
Space.
you could make a good argument that the intermediate work product from everybody is also at the frontier at some level, because at some level, all humans express creativity. And so I think we're quite a ways away from mapping what you would consider the interior, because I bet you the interior has a lot more frontier than you expect.
I think we do have the interior being a lot more frontier, and that's kind of the innovation we've had since the 70s. We've been tweeting and writing a lot more and networking between each other to find that. But it's still a lot repeated stuff. Like I think
Well,
again, LLMs work because it's repeated. Like LLMs are emotionally intelligent, even though they obviously can't feel anything, because they can repeat words that have existed and combine them in small combinations. And it turns out that fits almost every emotion we've ever had that you've ever
yeah,
had. Yeah,
yeah.
that I've had.
Yes, I agree. And so then you're like, okay, what's valuable in the future? It's people who are digitizing and therefore financial securitizing this frontier knowledge. And so you're like paying people to do experiments at the edge of a knowledge space.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe there's also innovation in feeling, and a lot of it's not novel, but there's probably new kinds of feelings that we haven't explored. I guess that's what artists do. They push the envelope on that.
Yeah,
Feel.
there's like the historical analog here is I don't know if this is true, but it's helpful for me as a model of understanding, which is that there were words that didn't exist in the vocabulary, and so therefore people weren't aware of the boundary
Yeah,
condition for the concept. And
that's a
sort of
good
like
point.
two immediate examples come to mind, one non-controversial, one controversial. The non-controversial one is the color blue. And so there's a lot of discussion that's as a society develops, they come up with the word blue, and then now they can see the color blue. And that previous to having the word blue, they don't have a way to describe that color, and then the people don't see it. And then the other one is talking with the older gay people about the idea of the word gay as a concept coming into the like lexicon. And so they, when you're like the 70, 80 year olds who are gay, and they'll say like, when I was born, we didn't really have a word for what it was that I was. And then
Hmm,
as we had a word for it, now it helped me to understand where I fit in the world.
hmm,
And I was like, that's kind of weird because I thought that we did, and actually we didn't.
hmm,
And then talking with a lot of people about their lived experience of going across that bridge. And so I
hmm,
wonder, there are in our community a lot of what I would call like high functioning neuro atypical people. And it will be interesting to see if there's some kind of word that describes these people that gives them a shared identity and allows them to sort of move forward.
hmm.
So I still think there's this kind of thing that's happening. And then of course, like if you say centaur, so it's clear to me that there's going to be some people like my wife who have no interest in using AI or technology, and then there's going to be some people like me who want to be a centaur. And so that those people will have radically different and divergent life experiences.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a good point. I think you're right. I think poetry comes up and prose comes up with new words to fit a feeling that they're trying to express.
Yeah.
And that can only come from a person feeling that. I mean, the computer can come up with random words, but they
Well, the
won't
computer
have
can
actual
distribute.
feelings.
Once a human being describes that feeling in a way that's mimetically resonant with others, the
Yeah,
computer can figure out how to distribute it really quickly to the
yep,
entire society. And so,
yep,
like, one of the things that might happen is culture might start advancing a lot faster
yes.
than, it takes 300 years
Or,
for a word.
or at least every 6 months when Claude updates its database.
I think we're going to get to a place like with web search where it's every 6 hours. And
Grok is
like,
immediate.
well, so Grok, I'm not sure what that means because Elon always sort of talks a little bit higher than he is, and so I
Yeah.
don't know. He says immediate, but maybe that means every 12 hours it changes. But it seems to be running at least on a daily cadence because it has an awareness of what's happening at least the day before, all the way up to the day before.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. You brought up self-driving cars, so I think it's good to have analysis that's based on safety of humans. The complication of that is uh, you have to be very mindful that there isn't like a line like this is how safe humans are, because some humans are much safer than others by an order of magnitude or two. You mentioned drunk driving. It's not that you have to be safer than the average human to be replacing someone who's already drunk driving in the suburbs in LA or Austin. You could probably be 10 times less safe than an average human driver, and still that ends up being safer than the person who's already going to drunk drive that
Yeah,
car.
there's a
Like they
complicated
absolutely
part.
every day people are drunk driving cars.
The complicated part here is half of people have below average intelligence and half of people are below average drivers. And so I don't know like how you sort of square that circle because the people who are below average intelligence and below average driving capability are not really potentially going to understand the nuance of the argument that you're making.
And so then you'll have other people that'll
yeah.
say
I'm
between
definitely
10
making a
a.m.
nuanced argument.
You'll have other people that will say between 10 a.m. and 4 a.m. every car must have self-driving on, period, the end. Right. So they'll have like way over the top banhammer to deal with the kind of like shithole idiots that kill everybody because they drink well past the legal limit.
I think
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
in the end, I think people will. I think the change will happen very quickly, and
I
the
do too.
change and the change will happen voluntarily because
Oh, okay. Interesting.
if the car can actually self-drive, it's going to be just cheaper than paying a full-time driver,
Yeah.
and also much cheaper than Uber is today because they had to inflate their prices quite a lot to actually get to profitability and pay back their investors.
Yeah. Uber is
So
really expensive
really
now.
expensive. So
Yeah.
it's very easy to beat that price, especially with Teslas. And
Yeah. They're
so
like at 40 cents a mile or something. It's crazy.
yeah, and I worked at Lyft, so I know how price sensitive customers are. Like a few pennies cheaper, you will take 100% of the market overnight. It will be totally word of mouth, no marketing necessary. Everyone will know it's cheaper, and you will completely decimate all self-driving. And once people do it once, they realize this is cheaper than me even maintaining my car. It's even cheaper, like electric cars. It's even cheaper than me paying for gas at some point. And then they'll say, "Wow, I'm just going to use that
Yeah. If you
instead."
pay $20, a week in gas, which no, that's probably not $20, probably $50. And your cost per mile goes from like $1.60 because you have 60 cents in depreciation, and then you give your time like $1. So if you go 10 miles an hour, that's
I mean, most rides are a
60
mile.
minutes. It's like,
True.
yeah, 6 minutes. Right. Well, then how many rides do people do in a week? Let's say they do 5 per day, is 35, so it's $35. Yeah, you basically like can't, it'll be cheaper than gas. Set aside insurance, depreciation, everything. It'll be cheaper than filling up every week.
And yeah, at the limit, and then plus there are big benefits. A lot of women like the safety of not having a driver in the car.
I have daughters. I totally
Or-
feel for those people now. I used to be like, this is kind of weird that they had like a women only driver option in like
Yeah.
Uber, and now I'm like, why in the hell would you get into a car with some of the people are crazy? I'm like, I would just. I'm
Yeah,
like, women are like really courageous that they get in the car with some of these guys.
yeah. Historically,
Or
that's why a lot
stupid.
of women didn't take taxis, and a lot of times, right? They just had to stay home or take a car of their own.
Yeah.
And so it will switch very quickly to self-driving. Tesla already has cars on the road. Like Tesla has a million cars already in Austin, right?
Yeah.
And only use
Well, they
2%.
say they're going to just start with the robo taxis, probably because they're going to start at 25 miles an hour, like what you said.
Yeah, they'll probably be slow, and what percent of the time are they going to be teleoperated? So it might be a little more expensive at first, but as they really dial it in, then what I realized is a few years ago, 10 years ago, I thought, oh, the self-driving cars have to be 10 times safer than humans, 100 times safer than humans. Now I realized that first they shrink the operational drive domain so that it's only like on sunny days, in safe neighborhoods, away from school zones. Once you shrink that, the base rate of accidents already, like actually hitting anyone or anything, goes down a lot already, even if the car was unsafe. So, interestingly, in that same drive domain, the safety of humans is astronomical, like one in
Yeah.
a billion miles, 1 in 10 billion miles, right? So you actually can't get 10 times safer than humans because the humans in this like very safe domain at slow speeds and all this stuff is astronomical. Like you'd have to drive billions of miles to prove that you're safer, and so you won't be. But it doesn't matter. You could be 100 times less safe, and you're still talking 1 in 100 million miles. You would never see it in like one city. So you actually don't have to be as safe as humans. In particular, this technicality, you don't have to be as safe as humans in each domain that you're ending up choosing to be. You just have to be safe enough that the number of accidents you have can be dealt with in a legal manner, and there's few enough. And Tesla has accidents. already because they're a car manufacturer. A lot of them, most of them not on autopilot, and they pay the legal costs and settlements. And so they already have a system for doing this. It's fine. Waymo actually hasn't flexed that, hasn't practiced that. So they're actually in a different boat. It's harder for them to scale that up. And the fact is, once it's close to safe enough combined, and if they really, again, shrink the domain to be just really slow in certain parts, go around, don't go near schools and things like that, then you are safe enough to kind of really be pretty open about it. And once you're doing that, it's like just go all in and let everyone drive self-driving. Just it's going to deploy a lot faster than people realize.
Well, and the reduction in cost as well is how
Yeah.
people will infer that, and they'll just be like, what the fuck? Of course I'm just going to do this. So they're not really going to care about safety. There'll be people like us who argue
Exactly.
about like the
Exactly.
incremental domain, like, well, when you're within 200 feet of a school, it's like this, and 100 feet, it's nobody gives a shit. They're going to be like,
They don't know. Yeah.
so I'm going to go from paying $2 a mile with Uber to 50 cents a mile with Tesla. Great. Like,
Yeah. Ironically, Waymo hasn't, because they haven't tested they've only done 10 million miles of on the road testing without a driver or with a driver even. And so ironically, they're actually less safe proven than Teslas or other things, but they feel safer because the salient part of the safety is this random dude driving the car. This tail end 1 in a million miles fatality, 1 in 100 million miles fatality risk is not a salient risk at low speeds. Also,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
main a lot of these cars these days are very safe internally.
Yes, the
They have a lot
Teslas are extremely safe the way they've been designed.
safe, and like any car has a lot more airbags and all this stuff. The actual risk is actually not to the people choosing to drive in a Waymo or a self-driving car. It's actually to the people outside. The risk is at-risk users, bicyclists, but also mainly children and babies, because most adults are aware and will avoid the road. Yeah, bicyclists at risk, any at-risk kind of road user, pedestrians. And so but the problem with that is that's a big risk of bad press. So
Yeah. Well, as soon as, Tesla runs over one of these Palo Alto bicyclists on Sand Hill Road, that will be
Yeah.
a big deal, right? So
God forbid a child, like that'll be on the front page, and then everything will get shut down. So
Yeah.
it's really, really have to be careful. But again, the risk of any human having any accident is like 1 in 100 million miles. The risk of hitting a baby or a child is 1 billion, 10 billion. If you avoid all schools, we're talking 100 billion. Like it's just very, very, very rare. So you can make millions of dollars covering lots of rides around the country and never even get close to being that level.
Well,
of
and
risk.
the other thing is that once people are used to using it in the quote unquote corridors, like what you're saying, then they'll gradually expand the corridors.
Exactly.
And so you'll already have, it's kind of like how Apple put a button on the original iPhone, even though they didn't need to. It's kind of the
Just
same
to make
thing.
people feel safe. Exactly. And at some point that we will have at least one corridor, one set of domains that are very safe. They're safe enough, and not just safe enough, but will have been improved enough that it avoids certain accidents. And then even if California or the US comes in and says, or Europe comes in and says, hey, you have to turn off self-driving, it's killing too many people, look at this accident. Tesla's going to go and say, wait, if you make us turn off self-driving in this state, in this country, it will cause 10 times as many deaths as we currently have.
Well, it's a good
It
example.
would kill people. So actually, they can just refuse. They can just go say, we're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. We will not turn this off. Even if you say no, we will not, because it will kill these people. And if they somehow force them, you will see the data and it'll be like, wow, we got to turn it back on.
Here's my example. So the local high school gets out at 2:40 p.m. And so you could foresee a situation in a few years where a self-driving car kills a high school student at 2:45 p.m. because they're an idiot and they walk around like idiots. And but between 10 p.m. at night and 6 a.m. in the morning, 100% of the rides are not going to hit a high school student or a baby, right? They're not going to hit a toddler who just toddles out. so we can, sub it for elementary school instead of high school.
Yeah.
And
And that's
so
the highest risk time with drunk drivers. Yeah.
yes, and so what you're going to say is between 10 and 6 a.m., you're going to remove every single drunk driver. Your number of deaths per year in the U.S. might go from 40,000 to 10,000, and now you hit a toddler, God forbid, in elementary school at 3:15 p.m. You're not going to turn off the 10 to 6 a.m. Like
Yeah.
you just won't do it.
Yeah.
There's because you're going to add 30,000 people. No way. There's just
No
no
way.
way that will
No way.
happen.
And so the question is, in June, is that salt? Is it? Are we there this year?
I don't know. That's what they're saying. So they feel, he'll probably miss the deadline. It'll probably go live in September, December, next June.
I mean, I
Right?
just drove to Tahoe and back 3 hours each way, and it was totally fine. I mean,
Yeah, you did the full self-driving in your car.
hundreds of miles. I've gone to San Jose now, and like you said, it's not, instead of 2 hours of fatiguing drive where I want to kill myself, like it's super easy. Just like, okay, just not touch anything. Like I'm honestly not even, I trust it so much. I'm not really monitoring it because it just works. And I know it'll work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's incredible. like it's already incredible. So
I actually trust it driving it more now because it forces me to stare at the road. Now it has the eye detection. It didn't before. And I used to have a big problem in normal cars or Teslas to like look at my phone to respond to messages. And now it's so good at detecting my eyes that I don't even look at my phone. And I actually have potentially more safety, but I just never need to.
Well, it would be interesting as well if the audio AIs got good enough so that you could continue working while staring at the road.
Yeah, I'm wondering that. Let's talk about Apple Intelligence in that vein. I just got
I turned it off. I have not used it.
I turned it off as
not
well.
even one
They
time.
messaged me saying that they fixed it and whatever, but I don't trust OpenAI.
I don't trust them at all. So I was like, fuck that. I don't want it at all.
I trust Google a bit more. Oh, what's funny is my friends who work at Google keep messaging me saying, "Hey, the new Google Flash 2.0 thinking blah 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 is like so good. It's at the top of the leaderboard." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe." Like no one uses it. No one ever talks about it. I don't know.
Yeah, it has
Supposedly it's the best, but no one talks about it.
It has no market share. It has no mind
no
share.
market share. No one's using it.
They really screwed themselves over with the Black founding fathers. I mean, that initial impression of Google.
Yeah, they also have that video where they pretended it was doing all this smart stuff and they just totally faked it.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. They just completely. So yeah, it's funny. You say the video, I say the Black fan. But like both things is the same. Is our perception of them is that they suck and that we're not going to use them anyway.
Yeah, I suck and are fraudulent, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're saying it's good, but like I know you're kind of fraudulent liars.
Yeah, exactly. And I hate what you did to search. It's like the same people that forced you to search.
Right. It's like payback. It's like, hey, I invested a lot in search. I trusted it, and now it's definitely bad.
It was really good in 1999.
The Google employees tell me it's not bad. That's the annoying part. I'm like, the Google search is bad, and I'm giving you feedback. You can fix it. And they're like, no, it's not. It's good. The ads are better. People like the ads more. I'm like, no, stop.
People are forced to click on the ads, so we make slightly more money. Therefore, it's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So how can we trust it? Why would we switch Why would we switch to their AI when they already corrupted their search results? Aren't they going to?
That's what I'm trying to say. It's like basically like Google search was really good in 1998, and it got progressively better to 2007. So there was this definite feeling of it was really good, and then after 2007, it's just been on.
It's only been the last 5 years it's been getting bad. I don't know what you mean by 20 years ago.
When I was at Bleco, we used to already run data analysis on Google versus Bing versus our search engine and then some others. And so you could see in the data that it was getting worse. So
I've got to go to the next.
Go to the next thing. All right. Great talk.
This about Google a little bit. It's been bugging me. It's like, why aren't we using Google? It makes total
Google
sense.
Sucks. They fucked us with search. So screw them.
But it's not really their fault. It's capitalism. Like any private company is going to hit this, is going to have to inshitify, right? So.
No, I think Google made deliberate choices that. Yeah, no, I disagree. I don't think it's capitalism.
Like,
We'll
because
talk
what
about it
an
next time.
alternative is socialism, that doesn't make any sense. It's not capitalism, it's human beings for sure.
It's human. It's some kind of selfish something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's basically people who wanted to rest invest. Basically, when you're resting investing, do you want to do the hard thing or do you want to do the high
I think-
virtue signaling status thing?
The shareholders want to increase the revenue top line, and the
That's
way to
not
do
true.
that is to put more ads in, and that's why it's bad now. It's all
Yeah,
ads.
the shareholders take loans out against the shares, so they don't. As long as the market cap is in a relatively stable position compared to the rest of the economy, they're happy with it.
Yeah, but the reason the market is big is because their forward PE is so high because of the growth. If the growth stopped happening, their PE would become 2 or 3, in which case it would.
I don't agree, but anyway, we can talk about this next time.
All right, let's talk about it next time. See ya.